To keep this show rolling, this next comedian is a local from Vallejo. We try to get, this is a good place for all the Vallejoans to, practice their stuff. What do you guys say? Yeah! Guys, please give a nice warm welcome to my friend. He's younger than the last comedian you just saw. Jay Porter, everybody! Keep clapping for him!
Hey, I'm Jay Porter, and I fight for truth, justice, and the right to wear spandex. Good evening, Bambinos! I just heard this story today. Seems there's this midget in Ireland who said he was a leprechaun and enticed 40 women to sleep with him for a pot of gold. So I was thinking, if I was young and single, maybe I'd get some green food coloring and take a bath and walk around with like a package of green beans going, hey, ho, ho, ho. Folks, I retired recently. This inflation is getting to me. Man, I think I gotta get a new gig. I think I'm going to set up an OnlyFriends site, and I'm going to sell foot pictures of myself. That's because there's some really sick people out there. They're into S&M, and you know what that stands for? Sandals and moccasins. Okay, folks. When I was still working, I was finding that a lot of younger people didn't like direct contact or influence with other people, particularly when there was a confrontation. You got this important delivery that you need for work for a project or it's going to fail, and you walk into their cubicle, you go, what's the status? Oh, don't worry, I have it handled. I sent them an email. Well, that's okay. I'm going to check back in a couple of days. You walk back into the cubicle 2 days later. Well, did you talk to him? No, but I drafted another email. This time, the last line is in caps with an angry emoji. That's fine, but we really need to call them. Person's about to hyperventilate. We need to call them. Oh, can't I send the email with the angry emoji? No, we need to call them. These same people, when they get home and they're behind the keyboard, and someone in my generation, the boomer generation, posts a comment that they don't agree with, they come back with the extremely rude comment, hello, okay, boomer. So tonight, I welcome my assistant. This is Jay Porter. And I want to talk, and I want to have my revenge tonight on the okay boomer generation. So first, I'm going to tell you this. Every time I say back when I was growing up, I want you all to go, okay, boomer! If you don't do it, I'm going to do it. So back when I was growing up, kids' parks were different. Kids' parks now, they're all built out of plastic, and they got these plastic tubes, and they got guardrails so the kids can't fall, and they got this, wood shavings on the ground, and even some rubberized surfaces, so kids, when they fall, they don't hurt themselves. Little bouncy horses and unicorns. But back when I was growing up, kids' parks were different. That's because we were locked in a contest with the Soviet Union, the Ruskies. And that's why I believe our parks back then were training grounds for astronauts. Now kids' parks, they have these swings that have hinges that only allow you to go so far up and so far back. But back when I was growing up, We had these swings that would allow you to do a 360, a complete orbit. And if one of those little kids let go and reached escape velocity, they were just serving their country. Back when I was growing up, slides were different. Slides were made out of shiny sheet metal. They were actually heat collection devices to determine how much heat a kid's butt could take upon re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere. Back when I was growing up, we had these push-around merry-go-rounds. They were for testing the inertial force that a child could take. And when they reached that force, the child was thrown off, or they were drug around like a chariot racer from Ben-Hur. They were drug on an asphalt surface, installed to install character in good American children. Back when I was growing up, dating was different. You went out to the discotheque dressed for a big game. Your green leisure suit, your polyester shirt, your white shoes, your white belt, your gold chain around your neck. And if you hit it off with a girl on the dance floor, you had to ask for her telephone number. No, there was no sharing of social media handles, texting her, or the semi-sexual act of tapping your phones together. You had to get that piece of paper. And if she didn't have a piece of paper, she tattooed her phone number on your hand. And if you were lucky the next morning, the disco sweat hadn't smeared it. A day or two later, you called the young lady. This was not a modern cell phone. This was a dark plastic device in the center of her home if she was still living at home. It was wired to the wall. There were three possibilities. One, a sibling answered it. No problem. Number two, her mother answered it. Although not always a friendly voice, the mother's maternal instinct to have grandchildren would override the instinct that you might be a possible homicidal maniac. But the third and the worst option of all was what I called dad phone. This was a man who, if 23andMe had existed at that time, his Cro-Magnon DNA markers would have been off the chart. His voice sounded like a reject from Duck Dynasty. His two questions to you struck terror in your heart. Who are you and where did you meet my daughter? That's D-O-T-T-E-R. Suddenly you felt like you were 14 years old. You were spouting out your life resume in 30 seconds. I'm Jay Porter. I'm attending West Virginia Tech. I'm studying engineering. I am not now or have I never been a member of the Communist Party.
Okay, Boomer.
But when this was over with, you would mutter something, you would stumble and go, well, I'll call back in a day or two. You never did, and the dad with a hama, with like a psychotic grin, hung up the phone knowing he'd done his job. And finally, my friends, a subject. Back when I was growing up, male hygiene was different. When I was a kid, we had something called lava soap, made with volcanic pumice. That's freaking rock. It would tear your skin off. It was for real men with real dirty jobs in real America. Time passes, and we men go a little more foo-foo. Irish Spring. Oh, sure, in the gore Irish Spring. You take your bar of soap out to the waterfall. The whole community goes out there. We all get clean at the waterfall. Whatever happens at the waterfall stays at the waterfall. But I tell you, you come back with a shillelagh that shines like nothing else. Time passes. Time passes, and I remember the dark day I walked in to the grocery store. There it was, men's body wash. Oh yes. Okay, I remember it. Names like Pine Tree for men, Niagara Falls for men, manly names for manly men, but it was body wash that foams your body up. Time passes, and we fall into manscaping. I never knew my nether regions needed to be trimmed, pruned, or deforested. There are even devices with LED lights to determine grooming incidents. I want to know what these incidents are and why we haven't heard about them before. Time passes, and just a couple of weeks ago, I received in the mail something called a dude wipe. This is evidently a toilet paper for men who have an overly fond relationship with burritos. So in our body washed, dude wiped, deforested nether regions of tomorrow, may we walk forth with a shiny shillelagh and remember things the way they were when I was growing up. Okay, Boomer. Thank you, Vallejo.